In this section, as you know, we're going to create an npm module or package that will be used to generate random alphanumeric characters. But before we publish anything to the npm registry, in this video we want to create the function, then test the function in a sample project to see how the random characters are generated. Then in a later video we're going to publish the module to the npm registry. So in this video we're going to create a function that generates random characters. Also, the characters will be selected from letters A to Z and numbers 0 to 9. In this case, we are going to use small letters A to Z. The function will take an argument which will specify the length of the returned characters. So whatever number that the user will pass to the function, that is the length of the alphanumeric characters that will be returned. Then before we publish the module to npm in a later video, we'll test the function in a sample project, as I said earlier. Now, to get started, the first thing we need to do is we need to create a project first, then run the npm init command. So here I have the node command prompt opened. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll create a new directory for our project, which is going to be the sample project. Then inside the sample project, I'll run npm init. So the first thing to do is we create a new directory. So you can create the directory wherever you want your sample project to be stored. For me, I have a folder called node_tutorials. Inside, I'll create a new directory using mkdir, which is make directory, and I'll call it sample project_project. You can give it whatever name you want. I'll call it sample_project. Then after creating, then I will have to navigate into the folder using cd, then sample_project. So right now you can see that I am inside the project. If I run ls, you see that the project is empty because I don't have anything inside the project right now. So the next thing I will have to do is to open the project with any text editor you feel like using throughout this course. For me, I like using the bracket text editor. You can also use the Sublime text editor. As you can see, the ls command did not show anything because the project is empty. Right here, I have the project opened with bracket text editor. As I said, you can use any other text editor. This is just going to be for testing out the codes we're going to write, which is JavaScript functions and codes, before we publish the module to the npm registry. Now, the first thing to do, or the next thing to do, is to run the npm init command so we can create the package.json file. So clear this. I run npm init, which is the next thing to do. Here I'm just going to leave everything as default. Just type it, hit the enter key to accept every setting or the default settings. So I have this right now. I'll just hit enter, 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 then enter. So right now the project has been initialized. If we go open the project and we refresh this, we are going to see the package.json file has been created. Now the next thing we need to do is create a new file called server.js, which is going to be the entry point, even though we did not specify it in the package.json. So we'll just create a new file and call it server.js. Now, since I said we are going inside this sample project, we're just going to test the JavaScript functions we're going to write. We need a framework to run all of these on, and we're going to use the popular Express framework. Now, to make use of the Express framework, we need to install Express first. So we go to our console, clear this, then I type npm install Express, then hyphen save. So we add the save flag. So we type npm install express, then hyphen save, which we add the save flag, and it will save this express module inside the package.json that was created when we ran npm init. So wait for this to install. The express installation is complete, so we can go back to our project. If we open the package.json file, we can see here express version 4.15.2. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to require this express module. To do that, we create a variable called express and set it equal to require then express. Then after this, we create another instance of this express variable that has been created. So we create a new variable called app and set it equal to express. Well, this time it's going to be the express method. Now with this, now we can now add the HTTP routes. Basically for this project, mostly we are going to use just the HTTP get route. Now to add the get route, we use app.get, and since we are just only going to work with the root route, we add the / then function which takes in request response. Then we just send the data to the index page by using res.send, and we pass in a string that says testing the route. Right now we still need one more thing to make this work so that we can see this test being displayed. We need to add the ports. We use app.listen, and the ports that I want to make use of right now is port 3000. You can use any other ports like port 8080, but here I'll just use port 3000. Then add the callback. Then inside here I do console.log. I can say running on port 3000. So right now with this we can test and see that this is working as we want. So to test this out, open the node console. Make sure you are inside this project. So open the node console and I type node server.js. Yours could be app.js instead of server.js. So you could just give it whatever name you want. For this project we're calling it server.js. Then you run node server.js, you hit enter. You're going to see the message running on port 3000. That's what we have here. So you go to the browser and you go to localhost 3000 or localhost and whatever ports you added. Hit enter. You're going to see this message that we added here that says testing the route. So right now you can see we have the message here saying testing the route. So we can see that this is working as we want. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to create the function. Then we're going to require the module inside of this server.js file. Now to do that, the first thing we need to do is we create a new folder called modules. Let's create a new folder and we'll call it modules. Now inside this modules folder, we're going to create a file. I'll call the file module1.js. So I'll call it module1.js. So throughout this course, all of the testing of the functions that we're going to create will be done inside this sample_project. And for the next section, we'll call maybe module2.js. But for this particular section, we are giving it the name module1.js. Now, what we want to do inside this module1.js is create the function. And as I said, the function is to generate a random alphanumeric characters based on the length that is being specified in the function. Now, to do that, before we do that, if we decide to just write the function, and we will not be able to make use of it inside the server.js file, but there's a global object made available in Node.js known as export, which is the export object. But we are not just going to use exports, then maybe add the name of the function, maybe random, but instead we are going to use module.export, so that whatever variable we are creating inside this file will be made available when we export this module. Now, so the first thing we add is module.export. Now there are different ways by which we can export the function that will be created. In one way, we can decide to do module.export.random char, which for random character, then we'll say equal to function. Then inside here, we need to specify a variable. Here the parameter, I will just call it num. You can give it whatever length or whatever name you want to call it. Then the next thing you can do is inside here you can just write function or whatever you want to have inside the function. This is one way by which you can export the function that you want to create. Another way to do it is by just exporting it as an object. So we say module.export equal, we open the brace, then we close the brace here. Then for the function right here, instead of using this equal, we use the colon. So this is how we are going to do it. So we say module.export equal to, we put the open and close brace, then inside we add the function, we add the name, which is RandomChar or random characters, then function which takes in an argument. Now what we want to do here is we are going to first of all add a variable string which we hold the alphanumeric characters. As I said earlier, the returned characters will be alphanumeric, which will be a combination of small letters A to Z and also numbers 0 to 9. So we'll start with letters A to Z. So I type in A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Then numbers 0 to 9. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, so we're going to write a loop that will loop through this string. Then each time it iterates through this string, it's going to pick one random character. Then it's going to add it to another variable we're going to create. So the next thing is create an empty variable, call it str, and set it equal to empty. Now, so whenever the loop will loop through this, then it's going to add the character that is selected randomly. It will add it to this string. Now, what I want to do now is create a loop. I can use a for loop or use a while loop. But in this case, I will use a for loop or a while loop rather. So I'll say while. But before then, I need to create a variable I and set it equal to 0. So right here, I'll say while I, which is this variable, is less than num. So this num is going to represent whatever number that will be specified. So if 5 is specified here, this loop will run 5 times. And at each iteration is going to select one random character from this string. So while I is less than num, then what I want to do is say string plus equal, then string dot char at. Now, as you can see here, it says char at returns the specified character from a string. So it specifies the character at a particular index from a string. Right here, what we're going to pass inside this char at method is math.floor. Then inside the math.floor, math.random times string dot length. So right here, what we are doing is while I is less than num, I is this variable we initialized here, then the string we set it equal to plus equal string from here dot char at. So at each iteration, it's going to run through this and pick a random character. Then the next thing is we need to increment I, because if we don't increment I, this will run into an infinite loop. So I plus plus. Now there's one more thing we need to do. We need to return this variable string. So right here we say return string str. Now we have this function. If we go through it, we're creating a variable string that holds these alphanumeric characters, the small letters A to Z and numbers 0 to 9. Then also we are creating an empty string. Then we initialize this variable I equal to 0. Then using this while loop, we say while I is less than none. Then the string, we add string.char at, and this char at returns the string at its specified index. Then inside this char at method, we're passing in these functions to select the random characters. So math.floor, this math.floor will round any value down. Then the math.random times string.length. This string.length is the length of this particular string we have here. Then right down here, we are incrementing this value of I. Then at the end of this while loop, we are returning this string character. Now this is the simple function that we have written. We save the function. Now because we have this module.export, now wherever we require this function, because of this module.export, we can be able to get access to this random character function that we created here. Now this random character function is exported as an object. So the next thing for us to do to make use of this is to go into the server.js file to require this module, and the module is called module1.js. So I go into server.js. Right here after the variable app, I can create a new variable and call it random and set it equal to using the require method. So require, then inside I will add /module, which is the name of the folder. Then the name of the file is module1.js. Now with this require method, I have access to this module1 and whatever all the functions inside this module1. Then the next thing for us to do now is I can create another variable here, or let me do it right inside this res.send. So what I want to do right now, I can add a string that says random characters. Then I'll concatenate with random dot the name of the function. The name of the function is RandomChar. So it's going to be random.randomchar. Now it takes in an argument. Right now I can specify 10 as the length. So I have this function right now with 10 as the parameter being passed. Now the next thing that we need to do is to test this out by rerunning our server. So we can go here, stop the server, clear, then restart the server, which is node server.js. I have an error here that says cannot find module. If we go back, okay, it's supposed to be modules, not module. So write module right here, save, then I go back here, then clear, then run the server.js. As you can see, the server is running. Then I can go back here, I refresh this page. So right now you can see that the random characters are being generated. If I refresh, a new set of random characters, I refresh. Now you can see that it's working. If I zoom in, let me zoom in so that we can see. If I refresh this now, if we count the number of characters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if I refresh, you can see that the characters are changing. If I come back here and I change this to say 40, save, and I refresh the page or restart the server, come back here and I refresh. Right now you can see that the length has increased and we are randomly generating an alphanumeric character or alphanumeric string. So this is the function that we have created, and when we want to publish the module to M3, this is the function that we are going to use, and we are going to see how we can publish this function to the npm module. So if we go back to what we did, we're exporting the function as an object using this global object module.export. We created the random character function which takes in an argument. Then we created a string with values A to Z, then 0 to 9, because the loop will run through this string. Then we created an empty string. Then we use this while loop to run through the string. So we use the JavaScript char@ method, and also the math.floor and math.random methods to randomly select a value from this string. So every time it iterates through the strings or run through the strings, it's going to pick just one character. Then it will add it to this string str variable we have here. So if we specify 10, it's going to run through this 10 times. So the first time it will run through this, it will pick a string or a character, add it to this variable. It will run through it again, pick a character, add it to this string until this value is equal to none. Then we return the string. Then after exporting, here we use the require method to require the module. Then we just use the random variable we created to get the function. Then we pass in the length that we want to display. So right there, now you can see that the function is working because we created the module and we exported and we are using the module. So since this is working fine in the project, when we export and we publish to node npm registry, we can also use the same way, and it's not going to be difficult for us to export and also publish.